How's it going, everybody? It's Yong here with a Red Dead Redemption 2 trailer analysis. Rockstar finally released the announcement trailer for the highly anticipated title, and while it didn't have too much to show, I think it offered enough of a glimpse to get fans excited. There's a lot to talk about, so without further ado, let's dive right into it. The trailer opens with a beautiful shot of a vast field as the sun rises on the horizon, somewhat reminiscent of the teaser artwork Rockstar released before this trailer. In the distance, we can also spot a man riding on a horse, presumably the game's protagonist. Now, some might immediately assume that this is John Marston from Red Dead Redemption 1, but I think it's more likely that we're looking at a brand new character. Why do I say this? Well, if you look at the teaser image that Rockstar released before the trailer, you may notice that the guy in the middle is someone we've never seen before. As for John Marston, it looks like he's all the way to the left, which seems to suggest that while we will get to see John's story unfold leading up to the events of Redemption 1, he'll be more of a side character while a new protagonist takes the spotlight. So it's my belief that the character we're seeing in this shot is this new protagonist. And what a beautiful shot this is. The grass and foliage in particular look mighty impressive and go a long way in adding a sense of realism to the scenery. This is then followed up by yet another beautiful shot where we are shown a highly detailed look at the kinds of flora and fauna we can expect to find in Red Dead Redemption 2's landscapes. I must say that the world of Redemption 2 looks far more lush and vibrant than the mostly dry desert setting of Redemption 1, which is great. On the bottom right are two deer hanging out, which I'm assuming players can hunt down and skin like they could in Redemption 1 in order to collect materials that can be sold for extra cash or to complete challenges. Next up, we have a shot of a ranch that has a bull's skull attached on one of the fence posts, with a handful of sheep chilling behind the fence. More specifically, I believe we're looking at the Texas Longhorn. Now, as the name implies, the Texas Longhorn is an iconic symbol of Texas, which was a huge inspiration for Red Dead's world, so the location of this scene is probably somewhere in Southern America rather than Mexico or something like that. Where exactly, that's hard to say at this point, but we might not be straying too far off from Redemption 1's setting, New Austin and West Elizabeth. I say this based on the alleged leaked map of the game that various media outlets have verified. Upon closer inspection, it was discovered that a portion of Redemption 2's alleged leaked map actually overlaps with Redemption 1's West Elizabeth region. So the implication is that Redemption 2 may feature West Elizabeth from Redemption 1 as an accessible location, plus new regions that stretch further to the east. With that in mind, and assuming that the leaked map is indeed legit, I'm thinking that the location of this scene might be closer to Redemption 1's West Elizabeth, which by the way features a similar lush environment that contrasts its neighboring region New Austin further to the west. Before moving on, one minor detail I would like to point out are these mice scurrying through the grass. You can actually see how the foliage sways realistically as the mice move around, which is just one of those small details that you may not always notice consciously, but goes a long way in making the world feel alive on a subconscious level. Moving along, we have yet another beautiful shot, one that clearly showcases the game's volumetric lighting effects, or God rays as they're sometimes called, and this certainly looks incredible. Good lighting can be the difference between graphics that look compelling and realistic, and graphics that look uninteresting and flat, and from what I'm seeing, they're really nailing it so far. You can also once again see some wild animals roaming about, except this time we can see what looks to be a fox hunting a squirrel, confirming that the game will feature dynamic interactions between animals, which is really cool. I'm also once again assuming that players will be able to hunt either one of these animals for themselves in order to collect spoils they can sell for money. I personally would love to see materials collected from animals be implemented into some kind of crafting system that allows you to make things like extra pouches to hold more ammunition and consumable items, new outfits, weapon upgrades, and whatnot, but that's just me. Moving on, we have this jaw-dropping aerial shot that shows off just how expansive the world of Red Dead Redemption 2 will be. Now, is it just me or do I detect a hint of volumetric fog in the distance? The way things are a bit blurrier in the background, and something about the way the light is softened as it breaks through the distant mountains gives me that impression. The scene is further brought to life by the birds flying in the vicinity, which I'm sure can also be hunted down by players for materials. And the beautiful shots just keep coming. I can't be the only one who's getting some serious The Revenant vibes from this trailer, which, like the movie, turns nature itself into a character and brings it to the forefront through these beautiful cinematic shots. It truly feels as though nature will be more than just mere backdrop and will actually serve an important purpose both on an artistic and gameplay level. And check out the night sky, holy shit, that is beautiful. I know I keep repeating myself, but the visuals here legit blow my mind. Below the dreamy night sky, we can see that someone has started a campfire. The fire itself and the way it lights the surrounding area is seriously impressive, and I have to make a special note of how all of this is being beautifully reflected in the water, which gives this scene an enchanting effect. As for who started the campfire, if we zoom in, it's possible to spot a single man dressed in cowboy attire sitting next to the campfire alongside his horse, with a little tent set up behind him. My theory is that we're looking at the player character using a campsite, a gameplay feature from Red Dead Redemption 1. If you recall from Redemption 1, as long as you were somewhere in the wild away from roads and on a flat surface, you could use the campsite item to have John Marston set up a campfire, from which you could save the game, change John's outfits, or fast travel to another location. I believe this is a feature that will make a return in Red Dead Redemption 2, and my guess is that we're seeing it firsthand in this shot of the trailer. We are then taken to a shot featuring a ranch-like rural setting. In the background is yet another beautiful landscape with a little house in the distance standing by its lonesome alongside a windmill, and in the foreground you will find a man holding some type of rifle or repeater, alongside his horse, who's carrying game that this man presumably hunted. So this is even further confirmation that hunting will indeed return one way or another. Now, whether this imagery of the horse hauling game around is just an aesthetic thing for NPCs, or if this is hinting at some type of gameplay mechanic in which players can physically bring hunted animals for some type of reward is hard to say. I'm personally betting on this being aesthetic, since it does seem tedious to have to constantly haul game from one location to another. One minor detail about this shot are these little birds sitting on the wooden fence, which again, I'm sure players can choose to terrorize if they so desire. I get the feeling that one of the biggest improvements Rockstar plans to make from the first Red Dead Redemption game is the sheer variety of animals. Redemption 1 already had over 3 dozen different types of animals, so with Redemption 2, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we got at least double that. Now here's something interesting. It looks like Red Dead Redemption 2 will introduce kayaking. With how little interaction with water Redemption 1 featured, save for a few scripted moments, it's cool to see that they're planning to expand ways to interact with the world. I don't know if Rockstar plans to go as far as creating an entire underwater ecosystem like they did with GTA 5, but it looks like kayaking is definitely confirmed, and I'm guessing swimming might be introduced as well, a feature that was missing in Redemption 1. Moving on, we are taken to another beautiful shot, this time featuring a pack of buffaloes running alongside a train. One of the coolest things about Redemption 1 was the player's ability to board and rob trains, and I'm willing to bet that Rockstar is definitely considering ways to expand upon this for Redemption 2. With GTA 5's heist missions having been so well received, I wouldn't be surprised if we got to play through some epic train heist missions. In fact, I get the feeling that heist missions in general will be a pretty big part of the game, especially when you consider how the game might be taking us back to the Dutch's gang era. As I recall, the way John Marston retired from the gang was that he was left for dead after a botched robbery in 1906. Robbery in general was a big part of the Dutch's gang, so train heists and other types of heists are bound to be prominent types of missions in Red Dead Redemption 2. The trailer then finally forgoes beautiful shots of nature in favor of something a little bit grittier with this shot of a town. In the foreground, we can clearly see a horse carriage, a staple of the Wild Wild West, and a prominent mode of transportation in Redemption 1. Like in Redemption 1, I'm assuming players will be able to ride these manually or pay a horse wagon taxi to fast travel between distant locations. I'm also assuming that Rockstar won't miss out on the opportunity to create more missions involving wild horse wagon chases, which were quite fun and thrilling in the first game. I can only imagine how awesome these will play out with improved graphics and gameplay. Something else that I noticed is that inside the wagon, one of the men is reading a newspaper. A neat feature from Redemption 1 was the player's ability to purchase newspapers and read about current events, including the ones caused by John Marston himself. So this footage might be indication that the feature will make a return. Residing in the background of this shot is a little building called Worth's General Store. If you've played Redemption 1, then you will know that general stores allow players to sell materials gathered from animals and plants for cash, and to buy consumables and various inventory items. And I think it's safe to expect that general stores will serve a similar purpose in Redemption 2. According to the signs on the left, you can see that the store sells fresh fruit, whiskey, groceries, dry goods, notions, cloth, linen, tonics, drugs, and meats. In terms of gameplay, these definitely sound like consumable items or materials for crafting. Just for reference, in Redemption 1, some of the consumables you could obtain include apples, which refills the stamina of your horse, horse pills, which temporarily grants your horse unlimited stamina, medicine, which restores John Marston's health, tonics, which refills the Deadeye meter, moonshine, which not only refills your Deadeye meter but keeps it full for a whole 10 seconds, and things like survivalist maps, which when used, shows all nearby herbs on the map for 20 minutes. So in all likelihood, it's probably safe to expect similar items like these being sold in Redemption 2's general stores. Rockstar might even expand the kinds of items you could buy in a general store from Red Dead Redemption 1. Things like cloth and linen might suggest that these stores will also sell clothes and outfits for the player character, or at least materials to make them. And then there's meats, which could simply be another type of consumable, but could also end up acting as an ingredient for, I don't know, a cooking system or something. I think it'd be really cool if players could gather ingredients and cook up their own food that grants special bonuses. But keep in mind that this is all theory, speculation, and wishful thinking. It's entirely possible that these signs are there just for cosmetic reasons and might not be an accurate representation of the kinds of items that will be sold, but I think we can at least get a general idea based on Redemption 1's general store. Another sign that's clearly visible is all the way to the right here, which says tobacco and soap. Perhaps this means that chewing tobacco will return from Redemption 1, which refills the Deadeye meter when consumed. And if we look around even more, there's just so much detail we can find in this one small bit of footage, like the handful of NPCs loitering the area. You've got a guy taking a nap to the left here alongside his dog. Two men stand further to the right, one in deep thought and the other one, a butcher or a baker, relaxing while a bunch of cooking utensils hang above them, which may be further hint at a cooking system. Then, further to the right is a lady sitting on a bench with what looks like rolls of cloth or linen in front of her, as well as pumpkins beside her, which might suggest that it's pumpkin season right now, so maybe this is somewhere in October. Even further to the right of that is a pillar with a bunch of lamps hung up. Now, one of my complaints about Redemption 1 was that it was sometimes too dark at night and there was no item to act as a portable light source from what I recall, so I'm thinking that these lanterns might be the solution for Redemption 2. Perhaps it's an item players will be able to carry around at night at the expense of being more easily spotted in stealth scenarios. Further to the right are a man and a woman sitting on the front porch steps in front of the tobacco store, and finally next to them is an NPC who we can see lugging some wood on his back if we rewind the footage a bit, possibly involved in construction. So yeah, there's just a lot happening in this shot, but the biggest takeaways I think are the return of horse carriages, the return of newspapers, the return of general stores, and the possibility that lanterns might serve as a portable light source in this game. One last detail I would like to point out is this poster hanging on the wall here. It's hard to make out what it says, but it somewhat reminded me of the wanted posters from Redemption 1, which served as a nice distraction from time to time. So my hope is that we'll see this gameplay feature make a return in Redemption 2. Alright, let's move on to the next shot, in which we see a character hopping up onto his horse inside a barn as a bunch of cows tread past him. Maybe this is hinting that herding missions will make a return. Something else that I noticed is that once again there is a portable lamp hanging on one of the pillars, which perhaps further suggests that the game will indeed allow players to equip one of these when it gets too dark. I also spotted some ropes hanging around, which reminded me of the lasso from Redemption 1, which allowed players to do things like catching and taming wild horses, or lassoing people and then hog-tying them for non-lethal takedowns. This was definitely one of the coolest features of Redemption 1, and it's also one of those staples of the Wild Wild West, so I'm pretty sure that the lasso is making a comeback one way or another. Moving along, here is yet another shot of a village. In the background are some NPCs hanging around in front of a smoking building. I'm not sure if the building is burning down or if someone's smoking up a big one, but definitely strange. To the right is a civilian in front of a large wagon holding a rifle or a repeater, bearing witness to these savage chickens tearing away at the flesh of a dead wolf, while a dog on the right here barks at them. This, by the way, looks like another great example of how animals will dynamically interact in the game. Above the dog is yet another NPC who is riding his little horse wagon, and to his right is an NPC leaning against one of the ravaged buildings, but nothing too exciting here. Overall, this is just another awesome looking scenery, albeit bleaker than past shots. Things get even bleaker in this next shot, where we see a character heading towards what looks to be a burning settlement. This definitely looks to be the work of a gang, although which gang is hard to say at this point. My train of thought is that this was done by a rival faction of the Dutchess gang. Why do I say that? It all goes back to the teaser image featuring this Magnificent Seven motif. For those who don't know, Magnificent Seven is a famous Western movie based on a famous Japanese movie called Seven Samurai, and it tells the tale of a Mexican peasant village that hires 7 gunfighters to defend their homes from a group of marauding bandits. So what if here we're looking at the work of Redemption 2's version of the marauding bandits, with the Dutchess gang acting like the 7 gunmen who are tasked to defend villages from them? I think it makes sense, especially with how this man looks more distraught than pleased at the sight of the wreckage in this shot. This is the best look we get of his face, but with the mask and hat on, it's unfortunately still hard to tell who this character is. His hair kind of reminds me of John Marston's, and he even wears a similar dark-colored hat, but I couldn't tell you for sure. What I can tell you with more certainty is that the man is wielding a weapon akin to the Winchester repeater from Redemption 1. Now, we do get one more vague hint as to what's going on in the form of dialogue that's spoken in this portion of the trailer, through which a man says,
"Listen to me. When the time comes, you gotta run and don't look back. This is over."
With so little context, it's really hard to say who's speaking this line and whether this is a threat or an advice. I will say that the voice kind of reminds me of Troy Baker, but maybe that's just my ears playing tricks on me after having heard him do southern accents so many times through characters like Joel from Last of Us and Ocelot from Metal Gear Solid 5. But hey, if it is Troy, I certainly wouldn't mind at all. The dude's an awesome voice actor. Alright, so last but not least, let's take a look at the trailer's final shot, in which we see a bunch of gunmen on horseback fiercely riding towards the camera. If we freeze the footage at the right time, we can get a decent look at each of the horsemen, but even then, with the hats and masks, it's still hard to make out who's who. The only thing I can say for sure is that there are exactly 7 gunfighters in this shot, which just so happens to be the exact number of men featured on this teaser image, which might suggest that we're looking at the same 7 people. Now, I say might because many of the clothes shown in the trailer don't match the ones in the teaser image. Bill Williamson's iconic folded hat is nowhere to be found in the footage, and everyone in the trailer is wearing a hat, whereas the teaser image features one man without one. And overall, if you take the time to compare the outfits from the image to the ones in the trailer, you'll find that most of them don't match. I did manage to match up 2 of them though. The guy second from the right in the teaser image matches up with the guy on the very left in the trailer. Notice how both of them wear the same shirt with the same array of shiny buttons. They both wear bigger than usual hats, and most importantly, they both dual-wield revolvers. And then we have the second guy from the left in the image who matches up with the third man from the left in the trailer. They both wear hats with a similar shape, and they both wear the same bullet belt around their body. I guess one last match I could make is that the man without the hat in the teaser image might be the second man from the right in the trailer, and I'm only basing this off of the fact that both in the image and the footage, they're the only ones wielding a sawed-off shotgun. But other than that, I have no concrete proof. Now, even if my guesses turn out to be true, and even if we could see the faces of these 3 men, we will still have no idea who they are, as they seem to be brand new characters. As for the familiar characters, while we can easily pick out John Marston, Dutch van der Linde, and Bill Williamson in the teaser image, that's much harder to do in the trailer because of the inconsistent outfits and because their faces are being covered by their hats and masks. As for why I think their outfits are inconsistent, maybe it's because we'll be able to customize all of these characters. Hell, some people are even theorizing that we might be able to play as all 7 characters, similarly to how GTA 5 featured 3 protagonists you could switch between. I personally think that splitting the story amongst 7 characters would risk the narrative spreading itself too thin, so hopefully they'll stick to one protagonist to keep the story and narrative focused. But I wouldn't mind being able to customize my teammates' outfit and loadout before taking them out into missions as AI companions. For me, that would be more of an ideal scenario, but until we find out more, your guess is as good as mine. The trailer finally ends as the 7 horsemen ride off into the distance as they leave behind a trail of highly detailed dirt and dust. And after one final look at the vast beauty that is the world of Red Dead Redemption 2, we are shown the logo and the trailer finally ends. With that, I would like to conclude this trailer analysis. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know in the comments below if I made any mistakes or if you noticed anything that I didn't. And to be further updated on all things Red Dead Redemption 2, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out!